Yo, what up, native land? It is 2:30 a.m. in Memphis, Tennessee. Finna get ready to go to work at a steel plant. And I'm telling y'all missing a lot of perspective. For one, Tiffany, do not run to no rural South. I don't know what you're on, but it's nothing down here. I don't know what type of utopia you're thinking of building, but most people down here are working 70 to 80 hours a week to barely scrape by and feed themselves. So there is no utopia. Y'all gotta buckle up and start advising black people to care about themselves and their finances. The only thing that will get us through this recession that's probably gonna turn into a depression and a devaluation of this American dollar is work. Gotta go to work. And it's not in the streets, it's not protesting. That's any type of job that you can hold, any type of hours that you can get, any type of finances you can bring in for yourself, your family. That's what you focus on. All this other stuff, immigrants, immigration, foreign politics, it don't matter for black people. I don't know why y'all are still stuck on that, but I will go to work. I just hope y'all get out in the community and see that black people, there's a reason your comments look the way they do right now. Y'all had it right after the election. Forget all this. We need to focus on us and our money and our capital. That's it. Peace.
All right.
So I have to say I love this. Yes, I actually love the question.
He said, "I'm welcome home for real."
He said it's 2:30 in the morning, y'all.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, honestly, shout out to him because working that third shift at 2:30 in the morning is a lot. But I just want to thank everybody for weighing in with their thoughts and comments across YouTube, Instagram, and I can definitely a special shout out to the people who actually watched the show and not just the clips, and had a full comprehensive understanding of what we were saying, and still passionately disagreed with my perspective. And I think it is a very small person who cannot engage in intellectual debate, who will become so offended by another take that you can't take it. So I actually enjoyed reading the comments. I responded to a few, as you all saw. I asked questions of people, especially people who were like, I'm done, and I was curious, like, well, what does being done look like to you? So I just wanted to clarify, and a few mistakes that I made. One, a lot of people were saying, please cite your sources. From where are you getting these numbers? Which is very fair. And normally I always try to do that. And my apologies for not doing that. But just so you all know, I am never doing a 30-second Google search while we're on the air and presenting that to you as facts. These are things that I have read about, researched, cross-tabs, talked to people, talked to experts, really dug into it out of respect for having this platform and out of respect for the people who tune in every week. And so I went to the community pages, AAPI Vote, the Arab League of Voters, I may have that wrong, the Latino Vote, Unido US, AP Votecast, talk to social scientists. And just something I want to caution people on those numbers is exit polling is notoriously unreliable. And so that's why you have to have multiple sources when you're looking at who voted and how they voted, because that often changes. And so when this data was coming out, among a lot of the curious folks, we were all looking at it and side chatting and talking about it. So thank you guys for asking, for being curious enough to know, well, where did you get these numbers? The utopia that he's referencing, I want to let him know, I'm not talking about my imagination. I'm talking about what I've seen, what I've experienced, what I've gone to bear witness to. And out of respect for those communities, because of our bloody, violent history with whiteness in this country, I don't want to name them or say exactly where they are. But there are numerous communities across the Bible Belt of the South that are building community, that exists. They work, and they're Black towns with Black mayors, Black city council, Black-owned grocery stores. So these things do exist. I do take his point about, people are working 70, 80 hours a week. And so that's some of the things that I've been talking about. Well, how do we construct something like that? And I don't have all the answers, but I do have some. I do have some ideas that I'm exploring. And I would just say this about being in South, because he was like, y'all talking about, he said foreign politics. I think he meant foreign policy and the immigration issue. And I just want to clarify that it is not my ministry ever to work with people who are anti-Black. there may be somebody out there to do that, and is work for you if you got it to give. So I was not saying for all the people who voted for Trump in these communities, let's gather them and try to convince them. That's not what I do. I don't enjoy convincing. But I'm saying for the people who did not, I thought first it's just important that we know actual facts. Well-researched, documented facts matter. Even in some of the comments, I saw a lot of misinformation that I would try to correct. And so it was important because the media narrative, and some people were dropping links like, no, this is wrong because look at this article. And I actually would. So thank you guys for actually, doing research and saying, but look at this article. When you do that, I would advise articles often take on a narrative. So, for example, if I'm looking at polling, I'm not going to just look at the article that qualifies the polling. I'm going to look at what they hyperlinked. Where did they get this information from? So if they say something like, well, I'm just making this up. This is not a real number. If they say something like 9 out of 10 people in the Arab community voted for Trump, that's not a real number. I'm making that up. But I'm going to look at this with some intellectual curiosity. What are you basing this on? If this is an exit poll, who are you considering in the Arab community? Who are these people? Was it specific to a region? Or when you say this, did your polling, because not all polls are created equal. When you say this, are you including people under 18, undocumented migrants who can't vote? And sometimes you will find that the data does include that. I'm not a social scientist, so I often have to lean on people who are. I talk for hours to Fernand Amandi, Terrence from Hit Strategies, who Angela knows, Cornell Belcher, Celinda Lake, people who can understand these things better. So just combing through that data is really important. White-run newsrooms will say something, and then when you look into it, often there's a nuance that they miss. My only ask of people is that we care. I'm not even saying go out and do anything right now because I don't know what that is. Andrew, I would love for you to address what he said about protesting because, to be honest, I don't know that I'm in a protest state of mind. I don't know that I'm in the state of mind of, I don't think that my position has changed since the election. I think I still feel the same way. I think I'm still feeling like, is this a democracy that we even want to uphold? I'm choking. Sorry.
Yeah. No.
I'm getting choked up. I don't even know.
If you want to, Tiff, we can come back to you so you can mute and get
I know,
some water
sorry,
as well.
guys.
You know how
it's
Angela
all
feel
good.
about coughing.
No,
I'm just saying, just so she can.
Well, she don't
take
like
a
coughing
moment.
if you're near her. She's a germaphobe, and I feel the same way. But I just wanted, I'll wrap this up because I do probably need to cough, but I would just say the only thing I'm suggesting is to ally with the people who are our allies, who are people. Yes, I've gone into these communities and talked about anti-Black work. I'm not a policy person, though thank you to my co-hosts who tell me I am, but I've never worked on policy. But I have gone into communities and done anti-Black work in the Arab community, in the API community, in the Latino community. I've helped with research. I've sat on panels. I'm not a researcher, but I've been interviewed. I offer some Black perspective to these communities and organizing work that I've done across all communities of color, including the indigenous communities. So I just want you all to understand when I bring something to you, it is thought out. You don't have to agree, and I definitely appreciate people's perspectives. But at 14% of the population, I just don't know that this is a war that we can go at alone. I think we do have to have soldiers. And if, 48% of Latino men voted for Trump, of course that number's too high. Of course there's anti-Black sentiment. But that could also mean that there's 52% of people that we may be able to reach and lock arms with. Even if you disagree with that, I think when it comes to having a man yanked out of his home and sent to an offshore torture camp, I think we have to dig in our humanity a little bit just to care. Because if we don't think we're on the same path of destruction, we're misguided. So anyway, I want to hear what you guys have to say, because I think what his point also was, like, all that protesting and F all this kind of gets to what Angela was saying that she wants to talk about. And I don't know that I disagree with that. Like, I don't know that I feel differently from F all this. I can say F all this and still have the heart to care about fellow human beings.
I hear you.
One I want to shout out is Do-Rag. I really do. I just think that it's dope that he felt that at home to come on
Welcome
just
home.
his true
Family,
self.
welcome
I
home.
love it. The other thing that I really that's present for me is, and I feel like I say this all the time, the number of Black folks who have changed how we see the world, who impacted our access to civil rights, who impacted how incredible we see ourselves. So many of them were either children of immigrants or immigrants themselves. Marcus Garvey comes to mind, a child of an immigrant. Malcolm X comes to mind. And I think the other thing that is bothering me as, we do this tour is one of our partners is the Black Alliance for Just Immigration. And they released a paper recently, right after Trump's first 100 days. And they're talking about the number of Black migrants who are being impacted by what's going on. And I think that's another thing. For whatever reason in our minds, and I'm saying our minds, we see immigration as a brown problem, and that just couldn't be further from the truth. So for example, the cut to temporary protected status, which was set to expire on August 3rd, 2025, is set to expire on August 3rd, 2025. 500,000 Haitian people will be impacted by that. There are 552,957 Black immigrants who are eligible for TPS from 6 other countries who will be impacted by that. There is a whole research paper about that. I'll make sure that Nick on our production team gets a link to that so you can see that. I implore you, even if you just read the executive summary, to look at how many Black people are impacted by this. So the very bottom line that Tiff just referenced around us being 12, some people argue 13, 14% of the population. That includes Black migrants, fam. So your numbers get real low after that. I live in Seattle. Our Black port commissioner, who I hope we have on this show soon, is a Somali woman who is so down for the cause and fighting for folks who are both migrants and folks who are from here for multiple generations. So I just think that we really have to thread this needle a little better. And I'm not saying that my sentiment has changed much from the election either. But what I'm not about to do is let the error of somebody else's ways hang all of us out to dry. So I am going to fight to protect whatever protections we have left.
Yeah. Y'all, I sort of thought that when we had this conversation, we weren't asking people to abandon their care for us, for our community, for Black folks. I kind of had the conversation. I assumed we were having the conversation in the light of, if this is happening to those adjacent, right next to us, could be, cousins down the road, right? Probably are in some shape or form, if we were to really trace back, right? That if this happening there, can you imagine what it's going to look like when it hits us? Mm-hmm. That almost as a cautionary note, that these folks aren't playing and they're not discriminating. They want all the Black and brown folks wrangled up and shipped out and off to someplace. I'd love to appeal to the humanity of all of us to care about one another. In fact, I was my twins graduated from 5th grade last week, now going into middle school. God help us all.
Congratulations.
One of the songs that they sang at their graduation was "We Are the World." And I remember looking at the Netflix documentary of like The Greatest Night, which was the recording of that. And of course, that song was about ending the tremendous hunger deficit that had hit various parts of Africa, but in South Africa. And then those entertainers traveled the world to bring attention, funding, food. These were Black folks in America doing what they could for folks on the continent, largely Black folks on the continent, but people on the continent who wouldn't necessarily relate to us as African Americans, right? But rather as descendants of various parts of the continent. That we have to be bigger. We have to. In fact, it'd be a pretty damn depressed place to live if all we ever did was concentrate on the me of it all. Largely because we are likely then going to miss the next attack, the next onslaught that's coming our way because we're so barreled in. So I don't think this is lecture season. I just think I just want, to join you all in clarifying. I wasn't necessarily really appealing to the greater humanity, but rather cautionary note all over the place. We're seeing it happen everywhere. And when it hits your block, and I still maintain, people plug in when you're not just on their street, but you got to be up the drive and damn near coming in the house before we recognize the severity of the threat. Otherwise, it's kind of white noise in the space.
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeart Radio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeart Radio, visit the iHeart Radio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.